Good evening and welcome to the December 4th, 2023 meeting of the Menlo Park Planning Commission. Established by state law, the commission is composed of 7 volunteer voting age residents appointed to 4-year terms by the City Council. The Planning Commission is not a policy-setting body, that is the City Council. The Planning Commission is a policy implementing body. We review development proposals on public and private lands for compliance with our city's general plan and zoning ordinance, which can be found on the city's website. The commission reviews all development proposals requiring a use permit, architectural control, variance, minor subdivision, and environmental review associated with these projects. The commission is the final decision-making body for these applications unless appealed to the City Council. The commission also serves as a recommending body to the City Council for major subdivisions, rezoning, conditional development permits, zoning ordinance amendments, general plan amendments, and the environmental reviews and below market rate housing agreements associated with those projects. We work closely with staff in our city's planning division. They are responsible for coordinating enforcement of the zoning ordinance and related policies. Thank you for joining this evening. We encourage your participation whether you are an applicant or member of the public. There will be an opportunity to speak publicly during general public comment as well as for each agenda item. So with that, this meeting is called to order and we'll proceed to roll call. Commissioner Barnes.
Good evening, I'm present.
Commissioner Eric.
Present.
Commissioner Farrett.
Present.
Commissioner Riggs.
Present.
Commissioner Schindler. Present. I am also present. Vice Chair Doe, I'm also present. Reports and announcements. I'll turn to Mr. Parada for those.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Vice Chair Doe and members of the Planning Commission. So just a few updates. I think I'll start. Last week, the City Council held a special meeting to review and introduce the zoning ordinance amendments associated with the housing element update. So those were introduced with some modifications last Tuesday, and the council is holding its second reading or waiving the second reading and adopting the ordinance is planned to conduct those items tomorrow night at the council meeting. So there's a staff report available. I would encourage the Planning Commission, if they're interested, to review it to see the detailed changes outlined, but there's relatively few minor modifications that the council incorporated into the introduction of the ordinance. At the meeting tomorrow evening, the council is also considering amendments to the city's below market rate housing agreement, below market rate housing guidelines, specifically related to for sale BMR units. And that concludes my reports and announcements. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from any commissioners? No? Okay. So item D, public comment. Under public comment, the public may address the commission on any subject not listed in the agenda. Each speaker may address the commission once for a limit of 3 minutes. You are not required to provide your name or city of residence, but it is helpful. And the commission cannot act on items not listed on the agenda and therefore cannot respond to non-agenda issues other than to provide general information. I will add that since there is an architectural control item on the consent calendar, staff has recommended that we also take public comment on that consent item during this general public comment period, and that is for the architectural control revision at 657 Oak Grove Avenue. And I'll turn to our clerk, Ms. Beacon, to explain how members of the public can participate during this and subsequent public comment periods.
Thank you, Chair Doe. Regarding procedures for communicating for those presenting on an item on tonight's agenda, we kindly ask that you also turn on your microphone and webcam during your presentation for your item. During the public comment period, members of the public will have an opportunity to share their comments or questions by clicking on the hand icon on your screen, upon which staff will introduce you and activate your microphone. Alternatively, for those calling into tonight's meeting, please press *9 on your keypad to notify staff that you have a comment. For any members of the public who are sharing a Zoom account or phone line with another commenter during this meeting, please inform staff at the start of your public comment, and staff will ensure that the other commenter speaks after you have finished your comment. If you are participating in person, please fill out a comment card and bring it to me. With that said, I hand it back to you, Chair Doe.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's go ahead and open public comment. Are there any public commenters?
At this time, I do not see any hands raised, and I have not received any comment cards. But we can give it a minute if you'd like to see if anyone comes in.
Sure, we'll give it a few moments. Any hands now?
I can confirm that there are no
Okay, great,
comments.
thank you. We'll go ahead and close D, public comment, and proceed to E, the consent calendar. There's one item under the consent calendar. Would any commissioners like to make a motion or pull the item for discussion? Commissioner Barnes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Riggs.
Yes, I would appreciate seeing a presentation on what is being proposed. What little we were able to see in the staff report does not present very persuasively, and I think it would be to everyone's benefit if we could see something that would explain why the changes, particularly to the front facade, would be a benefit to the community.
Thank you, Commissioner Riggs. I just see Ms. Turner and the applicant, so turn it over to either of them to answer that question.
Sure, I will start off. So I don't have any updates to the staff report. If there are some specific questions about the design, I may defer to the applicant on those unless it's something staff can answer.
Yes, certainly, if staff feels that's appropriate. The building being presented to us will essentially be simplified, painted white, and have a large, dark gray, heavy outline to the building. I couldn't help but think this was perhaps appropriate to some product packaging. But acknowledging that these colors are current in residential design, their use on Oak Grove seem incongruent at best. So I was hoping that a presentation would explain something that we aren't able to see simply by looking at the staff report.
Sorry, can you repeat that last sentence? Apologize for I missed it. But generally, the idea, and I'll let the applicant confirm this and fully explain, but generally there was sort of this disconnect between the front and the rear facade. The idea was to modernize it, kind of bring together a more cohesive design And staff felt that was appropriate. The applicant would like to, further explain the thought behind the design.
Sure, I'd be happy to. My name is Nathaniel Haynes. I'm the architect representing the owners of 657 Oak Grove Avenue. Essentially what Chris explained in his kind of brief intro is exactly what we were trying to accomplish. The building has had a series of renovations on each facade over the last several years, both installations of awnings, painting, glazing changes, facade changes that have resulted in the two facades being somewhat different. The idea of this was to try and move the Oak Grove Avenue facade closer to the time period from which the building would have been built, which was the mid to late 60s. The current facade represents sort of a faux historic facade that is not also represented on the rear. The awnings on the rear of the building are damaged and falling down. The awnings on the front don't necessarily draw equal attention to both entries, which serve tenants on each floor. And the idea was to try and make sure that wayfinding from the street side is as clear as possible by presenting signage that directs people to the address that they're trying to go to, as well as tries to provide a similar sensibility of design on the front and the rear. The selection of colors really was meant to try and simplify and develop kind of a sophisticated muted palette that would fit in well with some of the other commercial buildings that are currently on Oak Grove Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Haynes. Perhaps I could ask, how would you resolve, in architectural terms, resolve the facade finishes with the rather extensive and visible CMU sides of the building?
Yes. Understanding that cost, everything comes with a cost. The owners plan to paint the sides of the building to match some of the features that we're accentuating on the front. However, the facade updates are really intended for the front facade. We will skim coat over some of the CMU on each of the facades in order to provide a smoother surface and then paint those. And then where we have existing stucco, that will be patched, prepared, and painted. Again, on the Oak Grove side, where we have clapboard siding, understanding that cost is a limitation, we'll be removing some of the extraneous trim pieces, trying to maintain a more modern or simplified appearance for that, and then install awnings that are the same in appearance on the front and the rear facade. I hope that answers your question.
It it certainly is a response to my question. I don't want to imply any prejudice against CMU. I think especially for a long side that is not the dominant view, it's long been a simple and honest default finish. The issue really here is that when you modernize the facade and actually cover up some of the CMU on the facade that ties into the sides, that I think ironically we replace one false era facade with a new false facade in architectural terms. So can I ask, did you look at any schemes that did not include the, I don't know if that's a 2-foot thick frame around the building? Did you look at something that took another approach?
We did look at approaches and finish concepts that provided basically different color palettes to the project. In doing so, we felt that the depth of the facade was being kind of reduced, which made the building appear a bit flat and didn't provide the level of interest that we might otherwise have wanted from some of the different pieces of the facade. And what I mean by that is that the existing two sides of the building, the CMU that is current, is proud of the main surface of the facade on both the front and the rear. By painting those the same color, we had found that the design concepts in rendered views and sketch form were providing us with less depth and less interest. The thought at the time was to try and replace on the Oak Grove side the parapet cap that is sort of faux historic in nature with something that was more similar to what is there now, and provide a crown for the building that kept the consistency with some of the existing architectural moves that already exist on the building, and then perform that same function on the back so that the front and the rear facade had similar appearances. And again, the color choices with the white and then the charcoal gray were intended to create a depth of facade that were then brought to the window frames, which were also painted in a darker material to again create some contrast and depth.
So just to confirm that I didn't misread the elevations, because you referred to a crown on the building, but due to the similarity to the depth of the frame at the top to the frame at the sides, it really reads as a frame. Am I misreading that?
I think you could very well interpret it that way, yes. Again, our intent was to create a bit of a differentiation between the main plane of the facade and those elements that kind of bracket or surround it. So I certainly can understand how you would read that as a frame rather than a crown.
All right, thank you. I guess just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion. I do want to say that I wouldn't argue with any of your goals, whether it's having the front and rear facades share an identity, to express some depth, in general to modernize, particularly the street facade. It's the solution that I find so awkward and out of place. I'm not sure I've ever felt this clearly about a facade on our downtown streets. And so I would like to propose, at least for my fellow commissioners' consideration, that we continue this item so that we can see some alternative to the effectively black and white and framed approach to this small but tall building. It's the taller one of its neighbors. And encourage you to think more in context, not context in this case not being with adjacent Oak Grove buildings so much as with Menlo Park downtown in general. So that would be my motion to continue the project.
So through the chair, if I may, before moving on to any other discussion. So while we identified that if there was an interest in commenting on the consent calendar to do that during public comment, now that it's been pulled by Commissioner Riggs for a discussion by the Planning Commission, it would be in the best interest of the commission to open public comment to see if any anyone in the community is interested in commenting on this item now and then moving
And then
forward with the
proceed
discussion.
with any discussion or
Correct.
action?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Riggs and Mr. Haynes for that preceding discussion, and Mr. Parada for stopping us before we go too far. So let's then, Ms. Began, open public comment for this item before returning to the commission for further discussion and action.
Thank you, Chair Doe. As a reminder, you're welcome to speak on this public comment period by raising your hand with the hand icon on Zoom or by pressing *9 if calling by phone. If you're participating in person, please fill out a comment card and bring it to me. As of right now, I have not received any comments.
Okay, let's give it a few moments, just in case people weren't necessarily expecting this opportunity again. How about now?
I can confirm that no hands are raised and I have not received any comment cards.
Okay, thank you. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission for further discussion or Commissioner Farrick.
Thank you, Chair Doe, Chair Doe. I am not going to offer a second. I actually had a really different reaction than Commissioner Riggs. I thought it was a nice improvement to a pretty, two facades that I didn't even realize until this particular 53-page presentation, that they were the same building. And they need, certainly some updating. So I saw it as a nice step forward, and didn't necessarily, I certainly didn't react the way you did. So I'm not going to offer a second and would have passed it on consent. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrick. Would any other commissioners like to comment or Commissioner Schindler?
I'm going to offer a second on the motion because I would think it's worth the commission weighing in here. I also came prepared to approve the consent, but in my heart was disappointed, frankly, with the proposal. I think this building has a lot of opportunity for improvement. And even without sort of any professional architectural expertise, it looked like the proposed plan looked like it still had an opportunity to improve. Some of the windows and some of the details, even to my untrained eye, looked like they hadn't kind of evolved far enough. So I recognize that puts additional work and effort into the applicant and the owner. But I'm supportive of the direction.
Thank you, Commissioner Schindler. I'll just add too, I think that our downtown area is a very important area. So I appreciate Commissioner Riggs calling our attention to that. So I believe we have a first from Commissioner Riggs and a second from Commissioner Schindler. So if there's no further discussion, I think we should go ahead. And the motion is to continue the item to a date uncertain. Is that correct?
Yes.
So let's go ahead and vote.
Through the chair, if I may. One
Yes,
second.
please.
Recognize the motion. Is there any specific direction Mr. Riggs would like to add? I think what I heard was, find another solution. But is there any direction as to what that solution might be? Just in terms of bringing this back, is there something the commission or Mr. Riggs would like to see the applicant work on? So it's a little bit easier for staff to guide the applicant and ultimately make a recommendation as to whether the direction has been followed. I think it would be really helpful.
Commissioner Riggs?
Mr. Turner may recognize, it's been my inclination not to try to give specific design direction to an architect if at all possible. And I recognize that Mr. Haynes and his firm are fully professional participants to this. And I'm sure that that Mr. Haynes will come up with an alternative that is more suitable. It's certainly been done before, and you know, priorities might change. I think knowing that this particular solution raises some resistance, I think, I hope, would make it easier to search for another solution.
Turn it off. Mr. Turner, does that answer your question? Commissioner Riggs's response, or question to you or the applicant? You look like you're considering. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I mean, we can certainly work with that. Understand your faith in architectural process. So we can work with that if the motion passes.
Commissioner Schindler?
Thank you, Vice Chair Doe. Again, similarly to Commissioner Riggs, although without the architectural credentials, my layperson's perspective was I'd hoped the front view was just going to look more evolved and different, more different from the current status, from the status quo than the proposal does, to my eye. So if I had to sort of indicate which that side of the building was of greater concern to me than the back.
Thank you, Commissioner Schindler.
Is it, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of turn, is it possible for me to just just at one point that I'd like to try and advocate for my client's behalf on is that during the design process, we certainly looked at many options, some more extensive, some less. We engaged the services of contractor in addition to price some of those options and understand what the cost implications in real dollars would be to make certain changes to the facade. You know, with every project comes real world costs. And it was, in the end, we settled on a design that we thought could advance the look of the building to be something that was a bit more in keeping with the neighborhood that we were within, provide an updated and crisp look, provide some essential repairs, while still maintaining a budget that the clients were able to spend to make those improvements.
Great, thank you, Mr. Haynes. I think we'll go ahead and just see where this lands, if that's fine with commission. So the motion is to continue this item. Commissioner Barnes?
I do not vote to continue the item. I do not vote to continue the item.
Commissioner Eric?
I also do not vote to continue the item.
Commissioner Farrick?
No.
Commissioner Riggs?
Yes.
Commissioner Schindler?
Yes.
And I am also a no. I was also intending to approve this item as it was on the consent calendar. So that makes 2 yeses and 4 noes. And so the motion does not pass. And that doesn't mean that the consent calendar passes. Is that correct?
It does not. The commission, a new commissioner, a commissioner may make a subsequent motion in the affirmative, and the commission may vote on that.
Certainly. Would, in light of that, would any commissioner like to make a motion?
I have a question before a motion is made.
Certainly,
It's
Commissioner.
actually a question for staff, so through the chair, Mr. Parada, I guess I'm struggling because obviously we have two commissioners, and I understand, especially that front facade, the windows are, I think, what particularly is irksome because they're just the wrong size, and I'm not an architect either, but you can just tell, and this will probably accentuate it more. So my question is, what options would be available to the applicant should they decide to, let's say, upgrade the fenestration to be a little less, I don't know, 1993 or whatever year it was that they put those in? I mean, like, would they have to come back again with another whole thing if they just decided to evolve it further? Or could they choose within a certain parameter to like enlarge the windows, for example? Things like that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I did see Associate Planner Chris Turner start to answer that, so I'll turn it to him first, and then I'll follow up if needed.
Yeah, it's good. That's a good question. Thank you. So when a project is approved, there's a standard condition saying that the subsequent building permits need to be in substantial conformance with the approved plans. What substantial conformance means is, a little bit gives staff a little bit of discretion to determine if the plans that are submitted for the building permit meet the intent of the project approval. So if it is a little thing like window sizes, potentially that's something that could be approved at the staff level as a modification. If it starts kind of snowballing into larger modifications to the approved plans, that's when we would have to make the decision to bring them back as substantial conformance memo like you've seen before, or if it rises to the level of a full-blown architectural control revision. So there is a little bit of wiggle room for that sort of minor modification. Certainly could also write a condition, which was done recently on another project, not prescribing something as a change, but giving the applicant an option to make a certain desired change, but not requiring it. That is also an option.
Thank you. That's helpful. Oops. I think I'm not going to make a motion. I haven't figured out how to maybe integrate that into a consent calendar. I guess that's just part of the city rules, though, so maybe it doesn't need to be articulated.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrick. I am comfortable making a motion to approve only because, thanks to your excellent question and Mr. Turner's reply, I feel confident that if a change is consistent with the goal, which was to make consistent the design on front and back, if those little dollhouse windows were replaced with something more similar to the other ones, I'm confident that staff and the applicant would work together to not make it a hindrance to the applicant nor derail the design. So with that, I would like to make a make a motion to approve the consent calendar. Commissioner Riggs.
Yes, I just wanted to insert, because I don't want my fellow commissioners to be swayed by the suggestion that any better design would cost significantly more. I spent some 30 years doing predominantly cost limit remodels. And I found that there are an amazing number of ways to lend an appropriate aesthetic without having to tear down a facade and start from scratch. I'm frankly a little surprised that an architect who is no longer in his 20s doesn't feel the confidence that that can be done. But I certainly do. And I recognize that this vote may go to approve this Walgreens frame of a building, but it should not be based on a misunderstanding of construction cost. That's all.
Thank you, Commissioner Riggs. Commissioner Eric.
I'm not exactly sure how much we can suggest within the consent calendar, and I know I respect Commissioner Riggs's desire not to be too prescriptive, but it at least seems to me that perhaps with some direction, if we had a motion that was a motion to approve with direction to do X, Y, Z, that we could, maybe not in the specifics, but in the general or at a more high level, we could get to a motion that would accomplish what we want without having to slow things down. And I think in this case, there are maybe some specific things that we could say. So I don't know, but I wonder if there's a path there.
Thank you, Commissioner Eric. I have some thoughts, but Commissioner Riggs, please.
Well, I have to appreciate that suggestion. I think in our tradition of finding a way to move forward so that an applicant can keep moving, that's very consistent. And while, again, I really hesitate to give architectural direction from this dais, the most concerning aspect to this architecture, frankly, is the dark frame around the white facade. And I realize there's an intent to create some depth, but this building already has prominence. It's a two-story building, and I'm pretty sure that the street level can gain some impact without having to have a 28-foot high frame around it. So I think if I were going to suggest some specifics, I guess I would often offer to second the motion with a suggestion that the maker allow the specific request that the applicant provide an alternative to the dark frame and run that past the planning division, if possible, including our architectural consultant, rather than bringing it back to Planning Commission.
I would be happy to amend a motion to include that direction to consider alternatives other than the dark frame.
Question?
And go ahead. I was just going to ask Commissioner Schindler and Farrick. I feel there was some concern about in the desire to bring consistency, maybe it didn't go all the way with leaving those little windows. So I just wanted to throw the question out there.
Yeah.
Is that part of the direction you would like to provide?
I guess I would just like to make sure that they are aware that it would be, I mean, it can't be maybe a requirement, but the changing the windows, modernizing the window type to better fit with what they're trying to achieve. I wouldn't want them to feel they have to keep these dollhouse windows, but I also agree with Commissioner Riggs that that frame even accentuates how tiny and dollhousey they are even more, because they're taking off some of the other little accessories to those. So I think that the change in that black frame and then the change in, if they would like to update the windows, I think should be maybe explicitly encouraged and allowed.
Great, thank you. So I don't know if I need to check in with Mr. Turner or the applicant if this feedback or direction is kind of the direction that is helpful, that in moving forward, if this is the direction, clarification, Mr. Turner, that you were looking for.
Certainly helpful. I think the one question I would have was as far as finding the alternative to frame subject to planning division, potentially our architectural consultant. Just want to confirm that will be a firm requirement if there is no more so than a suggestion. They have to find an alternative to the frame, whatever it is, in consultant with us staff, or is it a find an alternative if able to? And then second question to that, we do have a sort of separate process from a, it's similar to the substantial conformance process. We call this a condition compliance process, a similar sort of process where we write the commission a memo just detailing how the applicant has complied with certain conditions. If the planning commission would like to see it, what has been done to address the condition, but not necessarily bring it back as a full hearing item unless it's pulled under the regular business agenda. That's something we could write into the condition as well.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. I may let Commissioner Riggs answer it, but it would make sense. I think it would be nice for the commission to know, even if it doesn't come before the commission again, I think it would be nice to know what the design ends up being. I think something compliance, conditional compliance was the term you might have used. Substantial conformance. Just
Condition
want to know
compliance.
what it ends up looking like, I think is the end goal. And then the first question was, is it a suggestion or a requirement to consider an alternative? I may turn this question to Commissioner Riggs, but I would guess that go ahead, please, Commissioner Riggs.
Yeah, I think we really need to see an alternative to the dark frame. I think it's just too difficult to move forward with that as the default. But I did hear and recognize, and at least for my second, I would agree with Commissioner Farrick's suggestion to allow the option to update windows if the client at a later time so wished. That would be window type, right?
All right, so I believe that Commissioner Schindler.
Thank you, Vice Chair Doe. I'm respectfully feeling like we're bending ourselves as pretzels here, trying to sort of find a compromise on a number of different angles. And I think one of the things this commission always strives to do, as has been previously mentioned, is to keep things moving forward for the applicant. So question to staff is it possible to postpone to a date certain? Do we have a known space on the agenda that would still allow for this to come back to the commission, but with less of a calendar delay?
So I'll answer that. In theory, yes, the planning commission can continue an item to a date certain. We have had that happen in the past. There's a lot of dependencies though on that in terms of like here we're talking about potential changes to an architectural design. There's time that's needed for that for the applicant, for staff. So a date certain would probably need to be not the next meeting. I don't think we would be in a position to review a revision from the applicant and write a staff report and bring it on December 18th. So we'd be looking at January at that point, and a re-noticing would make more sense just so that the community has the benefit of receiving a notice. But certainly the commission could continue it to a date certain. That is within the realm of the purview of the planning commission.
Thank you. It's helpful to sort of get the sanity check. Again, I'm trying to sort of acknowledge the respect for the time and delay and the business implications that moving this off the consent calendar could have for the applicant. But given the number of variables we've just talked about, the outline of the building, the type of window, I heard the size of window and also feel that way as well too. I think, and again, not being an architect, there are probably at least 2 or 3 or 4 other variables that could improve that front facade in a more aesthetic way and might even make some of the other things less unappealing, more appealing. So I'm still in favor of bringing it back at a separate date.
Thank you, Commissioner Schindler. So I believe, I appreciate that. But I believe we do, the motion on the table is to approve the consent calendar with the direction that the applicant is required to consider another option in addition to the dark frame. That the applicant has, this is not a requirement, but has the option to update the scale, size of the windows, and that it would not come before the Planning Commission as a public hearing item, but that we would just be a substantial conformance memo. Is that correct, my understanding of the motion that we've created so far?
That's what I have down generally, yes. So approve with the condition to find an alternative to the dark frame with the allowance to update the size and scale of the windows. And then the changes would, the Planning Commission would be notified of the changes through a condition compliance memo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Turner. I appreciate Commissioner Schindler. I know this discussion has gone kind of piecemeal and you're trying to kind of give it that breathing room, but I'm confident, like Commissioner Riggs said, that the applicant and their professional design professionals, that with this feedback, they can comprehensively come up with that alternative to the current dark frame design. I'm confident with that, with the feedback that we've given, that there won't be any pretzel twisting as they, have that space to reevaluate. Commissioner Riggs.
I just wanted to add, since I recognize the appetite for some other level of guidance, that there have been facade updates to both the front and rear of the commercial buildings of downtown across, say, the last 15 years that have shown a variety of creativity and ways to denote an entry or give specific impact to a building. And I'm thinking particularly of economical ones. So I think the alternatives are out there. And I mentioned it before, but I didn't hear Mr. Turner repeat it, just that I would hope that Mr. Mammarella would assist in the review to whatever degree that the department can afford that. And I think he could do, frankly, a better job than I, since I have many other towns to look at or have And Mr. Mamarella has been quite focused on Menlo Park for the last, 10 or 15 years, I think. So just to clarify that.
Great, thank you. I'm going to suggest that we go ahead and vote on the motion on,
Don't we have, do you need a second?
I think Commissioner Riggs had provided
did,
the
okay.
second and with those modifications. Thank you, Commissioner Farrick. Commissioner Barnes.
So I have a clarifying question. The substantive part of this requirement, the substantive part of this motion is that it's a requirement, not a suggestion. Is that correct? So it's prescriptive. Okay,
Specific to the dark frame concept, yes.
got it. Thank you. For that reason, I am a no. Thank you.
Commissioner Eric.
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Schindler.
No.
I am also a yes. That is 4 yeses and 2 nos, and the motion passes. That brings us to F, public hearing. And thank you, Mr. Haynes, for your patience with the process.
I'd like to thank the commission for their comments and thoughtful review, and we will do our best to put a better package together for your consideration.
Sounds great. Thank you. All right, so F1, use permit, Monterey Development LLC, 128 Cornell Road. Consider and adopt a resolution to approve a use permit to demolish an existing single-story, single-family residence and construct a new 2-story, single-family residence on a substandard lot with regard to minimum lot width in the R1U Single-Family Urban Residential Zoning District, and determine this action is categorically exempt under CEQA guidelines, Section 15303's Class 3 exemption for new construction or conversion of small structures. The proposal includes an attached accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, which is a permitted use and not subject to discretionary review. And is there any staff updates, Mr. Hochleitner, or applicant presentation?
Good evening, Vice Chair Doe and Commissioners. There will be a short presentation by the architect, Calvin Smith. There is a update on the project. There was an issue determining the ownership of a tree that's on a lot line between 2 properties, and we had added a condition that said that they needs to either determine the ownership of the tree or submit new plans that retained the tree. They have submitted new plans that are show retaining the tree, and so they've already satisfied their additional condition 2B.
Thank you for that update. And then I'll go ahead and turn it to Mr. Smith for a presentation.
Hello, my name is Calvin Smith. I am the designer and project manager for the project at 128 Cornell. Sadly, the owners of the property could not make it, but they would like to extend their appreciation to the commission for consideration of this use permit. So as Connor had mentioned, we are proposing a use permit for a new 2-story residence with an attached ADU at 128 Cornell Road. It would be to replace an existing 1-story residence, and the property itself is a substandard lot width, so it is 60 feet in width rather than 65, which is why we are requesting a conditional use permit. Otherwise, the proposed residence would meet all zoning ordinance requirements for setbacks, lot coverage, floor area, daylight plane, parking, and height. If you could go to the next slide, please. We had conducted a neighborhood outreach back in actually December 2022 and had reached out to all of the immediate adjacent neighbors, offering them to, or showing them the plans and then offering meetings. If you could go to the next slide, please. Only one neighbor had responded, and that is the neighbor immediately to the left or behind the property at 810 Harvard Avenue. If you could go to the next slide, please. We had corresponded for about a month or so. Just he had some privacy concerns in relation to the first story windows and second story windows that we were proposing. And we had worked with him to address those concerns, showing him that all of the first floor windows were, all views from the first floor windows were blocked via the adjacent neighboring fence and also privacy screening via landscaping. And then at the second floor, there were a few windows that he took particular note of that we actually relocated one of the windows located in the primary bathroom's water closet to face the rear yard rather than the side yard overlooking his backyard. And then at the large window at the tub in the primary bath, we changed the window glazing from clear glazing to frosted glazing in order to obscure any view, but also allow light into the primary bath for the residents. And that satisfied all of his concerns. If you could move to the next slide, please. So in considering the design of the home, we took in a lot of the neighborhood kind of prominent elements that included gables, metal roofing, vertical or horizontal siding, aluminum windows, and stucco in developing the design for the home at 128 Cornell. If you could go to the next slide, please. So as you can see here, these are street view images of a lot of the neighboring homes to the property. 1, 2, and 3 are all new developments. They are all 2-story developments with majority of them having gable elements along with metal roofing and of course 2-story developments going in, and the adjacent 4, 5, 6 neighboring residences all show typical elements that are very prominent throughout the neighborhood that we have incorporated into our design. That includes stucco siding, vertical board or vertical siding. You can see at number 5, and then gables throughout the roof in 4. If you could go to the next slide, please. So here's a view of the current existing residence at 128 Cornell. You can see it really hasn't been updated since it was built and has a lot of the neighborhood elements. You can see the gable throughout, the stucco siding, and in a typical ranch style home of its time. Next slide, please. So in the proposed site plan here, I just wanted to take note that, again, we're not requesting any additional conditions for the lot. We are meeting all required setbacks and then some. The second floor is actually noted through the dashed dark line. And you can see that majority of our second floor required setbacks are met and some. So our rear setback that with a 20-foot required setback, we actually at the second floor are at a 39-foot 7 setback. And also at the front yard with a 20-foot required setback, we're at a 42-foot and 4-inch setback. You can also see that the second floor footprint is actually quite stepped back from the street side setback here at the bottom of the page. So while required to have a 12-foot 6 side setback, we're actually proposing a 18-foot 7 setback in order to reduce the appearance of the second floor and really have the first floor read a lot clearer at the street side view. If you could move to the next slide, please. Here, as a requirement of the jurisdiction, second floor balconies are required a 30-foot rear setback and a 20-foot side setback. And here you can see that we're actually proposing a 30-foot 3 rear setback and a 20-foot street side setback. So we're adhering to the required setbacks for the balcony. If you could go to the next slide, please. This just shows the basement plan. So we're locating a majority of typical amenities of new developments within the neighborhood. So in the basement, there is essentially just a shared space along with an additional guest bedroom. Next slide, please. On the first floor is where the majority of the kind of shared spaces. So we've located the 2-car garage at the front setback, which is actually at the top left corner of the plan, with the entire ADU reading on the first floor, which is street side. And then you have your typical kitchen, family, and dining open floor plan on the first floor. If you could move to the second floor. The second floor is quite modest in size. It's actually at 41% of the total allowable floor area when the maximum allowed is at 50%. We've located 2 bedroom en-suites on the second floor, along with the primary suite and a modest sized laundry room. And this, again, as I had mentioned, is quite stepped back from not only the street side setback, but also the front setback and the rear setback in order to reduce the visual of the second floor. If you can move to the next slide. Our proposed material board are all very complementary of the neighborhood. Majority of the new homes that are going in the neighborhood are proposing very similar materials with standing seam metal as a roof, asphalt composition shingles also as a roof, and then painted stucco as a siding application, which is very typical of not only existing homes, but also a majority of the new homes going in. We are also proposing a lightweight stone veneer in a very light colored finish to call attention to the entry, which is a 1-story element. We've also clad the garage in the lightweight stone to provide a little bit of relief to the home. And then we're also proposing a stain grade cedar throughout the second floor of the home and at the side and rear yards, which is very typical of a ranch style home, which is kind of the style of the home we're proposing. And then we're also proposing clear aluminum windows along with frosted windows at specific locations. If you can move to the next slide, please. So here is actually the street side setback, which is actually our primary facade when viewing it. We've incorporated a gable at the front yard, which is actually over to your left-hand side, and continued that throughout along the street side setback, which is the view we're seeing right now, in order to reduce the overall prominence of the second floor and have this read very much as almost a one-story element with a very reduced second story behind. It's also very typical of ranch homes, which is very typical throughout the neighborhood, both in existing homes, but also the new two-story developments that are going in. The double gables on the second floor here are calling attention to the entryway here, but also providing a very complementary kind of central access point at the entryway here, with a very balanced facade on the right-hand side and also the left-hand side. If you could move to the next slide, please. This is the actually the front elevation, which is what we're considering the secondary facade, which is not kind of along the prominent Cornell Road. Here you can see that the second floor footprint reads very kind of drawn back from the first floor. So the first floor reads very prominently. And we've also incorporated a flat roof over the garage and over the stairwell that you can see at the second floor here, in order to reduce the prominence of it from not only the street side here, but also the neighbor at 810 Harvard Avenue to the left-hand side. If you could move to the next slide. Here is the interior side setback facade, which is the view from the neighbor at 810 Cornell. So this, you can see that we've incorporated a lot of his requests by basically switching out the window at the second floor with frosted glass here. And you can also see that we've stepped back over to the left-hand side, the two-story element, in order to reduce kind of the visual of the two-story element when viewed from his backyard. If you could go to the next slide, please. That concludes my presentation. And again, I just wanted to express my appreciation for taking the time to consider our application.
Thank you for that presentation. Any commissioner clarifying questions to the applicant or staff? If not, then let's go ahead and take public comment. Ms. Beacon?
Thank you, Chair Doe. As a reminder, you're welcome to speak on this public comment period by raising your hand with the hand icon on Zoom or by pressing *9 if calling by phone. At this time, I do not see any hands raised online.
Okay, we'll give it a few moments. How about now?
I can confirm that there are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. So let's close public comment and bring it back to the commission for any questions, discussion. Commissioner Barnes.
Yes, I want to say thank you to the applicant for your very thorough enumeration of the project, the considerations that you made in design, the interaction with the neighbors, and from an architectural standpoint, the real focus on keeping it ranch style-esque, but really updating the materials associated with the project, which are quite nicely integrated into it in the step back of the second floor. And for that reason, in acknowledging that the project is within the development standards for this R1U, I'll make a motion that we approve this project per the staff report. Excuse me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes, for making the first. And Commissioner Schindler.
Sorry, I would like you to finish your thought before I start
No,
waving
I
my
was
fingers in your
I was
face.
just going to say Commissioner Barnes summed it up well. I appreciate the kind of warm brown tone. I think we see a lot of white, which is, I like white too, but I think the warm brown is nice and according to the staff report, it's fits development guidelines for the zoning district is all I was going to say.
Thank you, Vice Chair Doe. I would also like to thank the applicant for a very helpful presentation, which managed to address only the small number of questions that I had with regard to neighbor outreach, sort of confirming that that had happened and that there had been an iteration. I was particularly interested in what was going on with the 810 Harvard because it's a house under construction, was still even with some open permitting. So I take great confidence and congratulate you in doing that part of the process so thoroughly, telling us about it. I am also glad to know that everything on that side of the building is copacetic with that feedback process. The frosted window, the moving of the window, I think that's exactly the kind of neighbor-to-neighbor communication and collaboration that we hope happens on a regular basis. So with that, I'm happy to offer a second.
Thank you, Commissioner Schindler. First from Commissioner Barnes, second from Commissioner Schindler. Please don't let that stop anyone from making any comments. But if there are none, we'll go ahead and vote. Commissioner Barnes,
Yes.
Commissioner Eric,
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Schindler.
Yes.
I am also a yes. That is 6 yeses. The motion passes. And thank you to the applicant and congratulations to the homeowner who, they're not present tonight, but so with that, we can move to item F2. A use permit for 154 Laurel Avenue is continued to a future meeting and will be renoticed once the date is confirmed. So I believe that brings us to.
Before moving on, if I may chime in, Vice Chair Doe, while the item was continued, the commission should open public comment in case there are any members of the community listening this evening that were intending to comment on it, and then do an official motion second to continue the item.
Okay, great. Thank you. And now that you mention it, I think that happened recently. So, okay, item F2, use permit, Steve Colum, 154 Laurel Avenue. Consider and adopt a resolution to approve a use permit to demolish an existing single-story, single-family residence and construct a new 2-story, single-family residence with a detached garage on a substandard lot with regard to minimum lot width in the R1U single-family urban zoning district. So, Mr. Prado, go ahead. Can we go ahead and go to public comment without staff updates, no presentation? Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So then, Ms. Began, let's take public comment on this item.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Doe. As a reminder, you are welcome to speak on this public comment period by raising your hand with the hand icon in Zoom or by pressing *9 if calling by phone. As of right now, I do not see any hands raised and there are no public in-person commenters.
Okay, we'll give it a few moments. Still no hands?
I can confirm that there are still no hands raised.
Okay, so we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission. We need to vote to continue this item to a future meeting. Would anyone like to make a motion? Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you. I'm happy to make a motion to continue this item to a future meeting. And it's not a date certain meeting, is that correct? Or is it a date certain?
Date uncertain.
Date uncertain. I make a motion to continue this meeting to a date uncertain future meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes. First from Commissioner Barnes. Would anyone like to make a second? Commissioner Eric.
I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Second from Commissioner Eric to continue this meeting. Commissioner, so let's go ahead and vote. I don't believe there's any discussion. Commissioner Fair, did you have a question?
I was just ready to vote.
Just ready to vote. Okay. Commissioner Barnes.
Yes.
Commissioner Eric.
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs,
Yes.
Commissioner Schindler.
Yes.
I am also a yes. That's 6 yeses, and the motion passes. And now we move on to G, regular business. Item G1, architectural control revision, City of Menlo Park, 1395 Chrysler Drive. Request to modify previously approved architectural control for a municipal stormwater pump station and construct the pump station building using concrete masonry units, CMU, and louvered aluminum screening without a previously proposed decorative metal architectural frame surrounding the building. Increase the parapet height by approximately 4 feet to screen the rooftop mechanical equipment, and determine this action is categorically exempt under CEQA guidelines, section 5302, class 2 for replacement or reconstruction of existing structures and facilities. The project previously received architectural control approval in 2018. The project is located in PF Public Facilities Zoning District. And it looks like Ms. Bagat, do you have a presentation?
Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission, and members of the public. I do not have a presentation, but with your permission, I would like to invite the Public Works team, and they have a presentation that they would like to run through. And I'm happy to answer any questions after the presentation is done.
Great,
you.
thank you.
So good evening. I'm Paige Saber. I'm a senior civil engineer for the City of Menlo Park on the Public Works Engineering Utilities team. And I'm the project manager currently overseeing the construction of the new Chrysler Pump Station project. So thank you so much for your time tonight, and I'll run through this. Please let me know if you have any questions. We also have our principal designer, Chuck Anderson, on the call. So he's happy to address anything kind of specifically to the design or the technicalities of it. So next slide, please. So this is the location map and our request. So this pump station is currently located right at the intersection of Bayfront Expressway and Chrysler Drive. So it's a small little parcel right there. The request is for architectural control permit revision for exterior changes to the previously approved design. Next slide, please. So first, I thought I'd touch on the existing pump station, just a quick refresher, because I know it's been a bit since this one was presented. So the existing pump station, which is shown in the photos below, was constructed in 1958, and it was designed for a 10-year storm event. So at this point, it's about 30 to 40 years past its useful life and definitely in need of upgrading to provide adequate protection for years to come. In addition to that, there's been significant development in the area that it serves, including Hotel Nia, Meta offices, and the Bohannon Office Park. So those just further highlight the importance of upgrading the infrastructure there. Next slide, please. So a little bit of project history. This was last presented to Planning Commission in 2021. At that time, the Bohannon Development Group had elected to both pay for and install an exterior ornamental shell around the pump station, and that was what was presented to Planning Commission and was approved. Since that approval, Bohannon has requested and gotten approval to revise their agreement with the city to give them the option to screen with landscaping in lieu of installing this exterior ornamental shell. Next slide, please. And so that kind of brings me to the current status of the project right now. This is a kind of a cool photo of the active construction. So we started construction in May 2023 of this year. As you can see, we've done a lot of excavation. We have shoring going in. We have some large utility work taking place. And we've reached a critical juncture where if we need to make these exterior changes without the skin being installed, we need to make them now. As we're ordering materials, we're doing the work on site and in order to save both cost impacts and schedule impacts and not have to do rework and reordering materials. This is the point that we need to make that decision. And I'll touch on what the changes are in the next slide, but I think wanted to first just emphasize here a couple reasons why the schedule delays are really impactful to this project. The first is that, as you can see with it, have the existing pump station only having been designed for a 10-year storm and being so far outdated out of its useful life, this is really critical city infrastructure that does need to be replaced. And every day that, the new pump station isn't up and running is another day that we don't have, higher capacity in these big storm events. So keeping this project on schedule and getting the new station up and running and serving our community is super important. The second reason that maintaining our project schedule is critical is this project was fortunate to receive about $5 million in FEMA funding, which makes up almost half the project cost. And that funding comes with a couple conditions. And one is that we remain on schedule. So that's completion in April of 2025. Which we're butting right up against, and then also remain within the acceptable cost benefit ratio. So when they analyzed this project and decided whether or not to fund it, we had to meet a certain cost benefit ratio. So as the project cost increases, we get closer and closer to not being in compliance with that ratio. So if we violate either of those conditions, our FEMA funding for this project is at risk, which, as you can see, $5 million is super impactful. So we want to be really mindful of staying ahead of anything and making sure that we keep project schedule delays to an absolute bare minimum and project costs to an absolute bare minimum, which would be impactful the later this decision is made. So I think in light of all of that, a decision needs to be made tonight, hopefully, to maintain this project schedule. Next slide, please. So that takes me to the requested changes that we're bringing to you tonight. I think this graphic in the top left is really helpful because this shows kind of with the ornamental shell installed, the interior building that we're currently constructing on site. So as we talk through these 3 requested changes, it kind of helps you visualize why they're needed, given that the shell is now not going to be installed by Bohannon. So the first is raising the roof parapet about 4 feet. So you'll see in the graphic in the top right, that's showing the new increased parapet height. And this is for a couple reasons. First, it's to provide OSHA mandated fall protection for maintenance personnel. And second, to hide the louvered penthouses that provide through roof access for major electrical and mechanical equipment, such as the pumps, motors, and standby engine generator. The second change we're requesting, and this one is hopefully a more exciting one, is that the CMU that was spec'd for this structure was kind of a very basic, cost-effective CMU because no one was going to see it with this exterior shell installed around the building. So in light of the shell being removed, we want to upgrade to an architectural stone colored ground face. And this image here on the right shows the selected stone color, and I think it was selected to kind of reflect off the buildings around the area and really kind of help it blend in and, kind of match the tone of the area. Again, I'm not a planner, so I'm sure the planners can speak about that in a much more sophisticated tone. So that would be the second change that we're requesting, is to change the CMU for the exterior. And then the third is we are going to need to install, originally the architectural shell was going to screen the engine generator exhaust and the fuel tank vents and engine exhaust. So those are super hot exhausts that come out from the structure, and they have to be screened for protective purposes. So originally the shell was going to provide that protection. We have selected the smallest little picture you'll see on here is the colored aluminum architectural louvered screening wall to protect that. So that will kind of both screen and protect that. And again, selected to give, to match the color scheme of the area and of the stone that was selected. So those are the 3 requested changes that we're making at this time for the project. Next slide, please. So our staff recommendation is to approve the requested changes, as the design both provides screening for all the equipment as well as visual interest to the extent possible for a structure of this use type. And then second, that approving these changes avoids any additional construction cost increases and schedule delays or impacts to the grant funding that this project has received. Next slide. So thank you so much. Let us know if you have any questions, and we really appreciate your time to evaluate this decision and help us move the project forward and get this critical infrastructure installed.
Great. Thank you for that presentation, Ms. Saber. Any clarifying questions? Commissioner Riggs?
I do have some questions regarding the design, but perhaps it would be more appropriate after any public input.
Thank you, Commissioner Riggs. There's no burning questions now. Let's go ahead and take public comment for this, Ms. Began.
Thank you, Chair Doe. As a reminder, you're welcome to speak on this public comment period by raising your hand with the hand icon in Zoom or by pressing *9 if calling by phone. At this time, I do not see any hands raised in Zoom, but we can give it a minute if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you. Any hands?
I can
No.
confirm that there are no hands raised.
Okay, well, I think people had a chance to consider if they want to make a comment during the presentation. So we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the commission. Commissioner Barnes.
Thank you. Commissioner Riggs, you have a open eye on one end. Did you want to go first? If not, I'm happy to go. No. Okay, sorry. So as I break this down, considering the three things that have changed about this, the raising of the parapet, I put that in the bucket of an engineering issue that is necessary for the completion of the project. The switch to architectural stone I look at as a design issue, and that's perfectly acceptable to me in terms of what they're solving for there. And the third piece that we heard tonight was the screening wall and the need for that. And based on the aluminum louver materials, I don't have any issue with that. So certainly not to preclude any discussion, but I'll put a motion on the table to, in alignment with the staff recommendation, to approve this per the staff report. That'll be my first. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes. So already a motion, but I think Commissioner Riggs, you had some questions.
Yes, thank you. I was recently reminded that I was on the commission that approved this original design a couple of years back. And to the best of my recollection, I was rather impressed that along with the major buildings to, I'll call it to the north, it's actually to the west, from Bohannon Development, and those to the east from, at the time, Facebook and now Meta, that this was going to be a pump station that appropriate for its visibility among these very significant and major projects was going to be screened with a design-oriented screen. I'm a particular fan as a designer of screens, particularly in industrial use, because it requires so little of the underlying building form. And the screen simply suggests a form on top and can be quite creative. So when I first read this item on Friday, I thought, oh, there's a pump station and they're simplifying it. Sounds good to me. And then as I read a little further a couple days later, I was just shocked, frankly. The whole intention, as I had understood it, was to lend a design character to this otherwise humble building that would be fitting for its environment, its architectural environment. For the architectural screen to simply be lifted up and removed and the bare functional building underneath exposed for a substitute from conventional concrete masonry units to ground face concrete masonry units, I guess elevates it to a trash enclosure, but that's about it. So here we are being asked at the last minute during construction, how about we downgrade a truly design quality structure, civic structure, that, by the way, the architectural aspect was being paid for by a private party and the neighbor next door, the Bohannon Development Company, that we simply downgrade it to a block building. And I have to say, this staff report does not justify that. Do we have a presentation that shows us what this formerly architectural piece is now going to look like according to our approval, up or down, in the next half hour? What do we have?
Good evening, commissioners. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Azalea Mitch. I'm the Public Works Director. I've been with the city for 4 weeks, but I was previously the city engineer back when this project was proposed to the commission. And indeed, over the past 8 years, I would say this project has evolved. It did start at Commissioner Riggs as an opportunity for us to work with the developer to really define a different character. The original design, the building was going to be integral in terms of the angularity. Since then, because of complications with construction and costs, Bohannon proposed different ideas during that time. It was decided that instead of the construction being integral, that it would be a shell. And so we proceeded with that concept. However, there has been a change in terms of direction from Bohannon. And so at this point, given the challenges that we have with the grant and with the schedule, we are proposing to remove that shell. And as was shown to you, to address the issue with OSHA and the heights, as well as add some architectural character with the concrete finish. This doesn't preclude Bohannon from proposing something back to the shell in the future, but right now we are pressed for this approval, given where we are with the schedule.
Thank you. Okay, didn't know if Commissioner Riggs, you wanted to respond to that, or that Commissioner
I'm
Schindler?
happy to let Ms. Schindler speak first.
Thank you. I have some questions, I suppose, that are more on the business side of things, I guess. I would like to, through the chair, to ask whoever the best, most appropriate staff member is to comment on the nature or the conditions of just the original agreement with Bohannon in terms of their financial support for the external layer for that unique facade. If there were any conditions at that time, and the nature of that just decision. And then the second part, related question, is what, if any, ongoing financial support for the project is still committed from Bohannon? Because I clearly see that the financial elements here, both the expense to the city, the support from Bohannon, and the support from FEMA, are playing an important, there's important interaction between those three money sources in this decision and in this project.
Sure, if I can start, and Paige, if you want to chime in. So there have been the original funding agreement. the focus of the funding agreement was always on the ornamental architectural facade. And we had originally designed that agreement for Bohannon to pay what we were estimating to be the cost of that element. That agreement was amended to reflect just the shell concept. And so the latest modification to that agreement has been to really give them another option, which is focused on landscaping. But from the intent, the city's responsibility was focused really on the basic elements of the pump station, and any architectural added features were going to be covered by the Bohannon Group.
Thank you. I think that's a helpful answer to definitely the sort of where we started. Is it accurate that at this point, the ongoing financial commitment for screening is to the landscaping component only? Sorry, Bohannon's commitment. Okay, just to be clear.
That's correct. In lieu, yes.
Okay, and that the modifications to the plan that we're discussing tonight, the parapet, the change in materials, oh my God, I'm forgetting the third. Oh, and the screening, the metal screening, those are elements for which the city is financially responsible.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then a final process question. When I read the part about landscaping becoming the main or the primary way of handling screening, I actually just kept reading. I kept looking for pages that had sort of a landscaping element to them. I am assuming that that's not where we are in the process. That would be something that would come later once construction is completed. Is that accurate?
That's correct. It's been a change. So at this point, we don't know what the proposal will be from Bohannon in terms of screening.
Okay, so I think is it accurate to say that this is an attempt within a fixed financial parameter that is the city's fixed financial parameters to come up with something that is as aesthetic as possible while retaining full functionality? That's my take. Is it fairly accurate representation?
Yes, that is a fairly accurate representation, but also the concern that we have as it relates to just the safety of the building in terms of the height. So being able to complete a project that meets OSHA requirements and that does provide some aesthetic, incorporates some aesthetic elements, so that we are complete in April of 2025.
Got it. Thank you. I appreciate the sort of refinement and confirmation of the elements that I did understand. I share Commissioner Riggs' disappointment that this isn't going to turn out the way that those first couple of pictures looked. I sort of went back and digested and thought, even though I wasn't involved in the original process, damn, that would have been cool. Like, that looks neat, especially in that location. So while disappointed, I have no intention of standing in the way of this getting built. And so I would intend to approve the requested changes to help the city maintain fiscal, the element that we're financially responsible for, and to be sure that we capture the full financial benefit of FEMA's support too. I'm going to just give other commissioners a chance to speak before offering a second, but I would do so if no one else does it, beats me to it.
Thank you, Commissioner Schindler. Commissioner Eric?
I would, just echo those sentiments. Also, not having been involved in the original design, I very much see where Commissioner Riggs and Commissioner Schindler are coming from. I also think that given that this is a primarily functional piece of infrastructure and very much needed, given the storms that we saw last winter and could see in future winters, that it behooves us to move forward. So I echo Commissioner Schindler in saying that I'm inclined to support this item, and I will provide a second.
Thank you, Commissioner Eric. Commissioner Farrick?
Thank you. I I think when I was reading the staff report initially, I was confused because in the text, this is a bit of a, I think I now know after the presentation, but it still says in the staff report on page 3, in addition, the proposed revised building retains the previously approved angles and wall modulations in order to maintain visual interest without compromising the functionality of the building. So I'm confused. I think I thought that meant that like we were going to be making the same shape, but with that stone splotchy granite CMU stuff. So I didn't, okay, so then if not, if it's just going to be a basic box, what does that sentence refer to? It's the bottom under architectural style and building design.
So through the vice chair, I'll look to Paige or our public works director, Mitch. But I think if you look at the plan, because I'm talking, I'll just go with it, and then we'll have public works bail me out. Actually, we'll just go with that. So if you look at the plans, there are some, it's not just a rectangle or a square per some other pump stations you might see throughout the city or throughout the Bay Area. You do, if you look on, it's in the PDF, page 141 of the packet, you'll see the outline of the footprint. There are some angles in there that kind of worked within the frame of the previous skin of the building, or not of the building, but the kind of ornamental skin around it. So those angles there are still there. They're not really the same, but they're kind of these undulations of the walls. So hopefully that helps, and I'll look to Miss Mitch to bail me out here.
No, that is correct. We in hindsight, I think that statement could have been simplified, but it is still it is not, the shell really provided a lot of angularity, but it will be a simple building that does align with the whole aesthetic aspects of the surrounding buildings as well.
Thank you. So then just to clarify, looking at the kind of the design, I think iterations, I don't know the staff report full page number, but the A10 is what it's labeled, and then A11. A10 is that the old design that's not happening, and then A10 is what, or A11 is what is happening.
And let's see, we have our designer on the call. Chuck, do you want to add some comments? Yeah.
Thank you, Azalea. Good evening, commissioners. This is Chuck Anderson. I'm Ashraf Wheeler. We are the lead civil engineer. I will start off by saying I am not an architect. I don't pretend to be one. And I too thought this was going to be really cool. But all that said, the simplest way to explain it is we did not change the building's footprint whatsoever. It's the same footprint that would have had the shell over it. So the only changes are the three that you were shown. One was the change of the block facing. The other was adding the 6 rows of CMU for the parapet, because we don't have the shell doing that anymore. And the other was adding the architectural screening of the generator exhaust and vent pipes, because again, we don't have the shell to do that. But the footprint of the building, the entire layout has not changed at all since that original proposal you approved.
So then on the, I think, so you're from Schaaf and Wheeler? Is that
correct?
So then on your second page of the letter that's down at the bottom, A12, A13, there's a graphic of the original CMU building with ornamental skin from the previous architects. You're saying that this building will be that same shape or same footprint?
Be identical footprint.
But with a little bit less angularity, but there'd still be sort of some version?
The
blocks are the same. Yeah.
I see.
So,
not those. Oh, well, yeah, that's not really, I mean, that's the whole shape of the building. So, okay, thank you. That's helpful to know. So I guess then back to, I think it would probably be either Mr. Parada or our city attorney. Was this part of a public works? I wasn't paying attention at that year of when this happened. So like, how is this allowed that the developer that had agreed to fund it is just not doing it now?
I'll start. So I think there's a couple different things here. So what we're talking about is an enhancement above and beyond the standard requirements for a functioning public works pump station, city public facility. That skin that was around it was not part of any, and I'll look to Public Works Director Mitch in a minute for confirmation, but it wasn't part of any mitigation measure from an EIR or a condition of approval from a project or a negotiate item from their previous development agreement for the Menlo Gateway project, which is the adjacent development. It really was an offer from the developer, from the Bohannon Development Company, that they have since modified, as Public Works Director Mitch mentioned, as well as Ms. Saber, throughout the last couple of years in terms of their commitment to that. So it's not a requirement for the developer from any negotiate item or a requirement from a development. This was really an enhancement above and beyond. The city's pump station replacement, and this is where I'll turn to Public Works, was going to happen regardless. And I don't know if there was a funding component requirement there specifically, but the architecture was an enhancement that was not part of any requirement that was agreed upon and provided as a benefit that has since been modified.
Was the benefit associated with their development agreement?
No, as I mentioned previously, is not part of the development agreement.
And was it offered as a nice thing to do ahead of an approval or after an approval?
Independent of any actions, all actions were taken on the Menlo Gateway project in 2010. Independent of any city approvals or entitlements.
Thank you. I just thought this was the right forum to ask said questions. All that said, I have to agree, we obviously need this thing. I'm not going to hold it up, but I'm also quite disappointed that it feels a bit like a bait and switch, and it's really disappointing.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrick. I'm going to just repeat what 4 others have said, only because earlier when Commissioner Riggs said he felt very strongly about an exterior elevation, it is really interesting for fans of architecture when utilitarian building like a pump station gets unique design, expression, and attention. So yeah, it's really disappointing, but the way you just described it, Mr. Parada, it kind of feels like there's no binding, required, legal, there's no basis on which you can hold them to that. So again, don't want to, this is a critical need and it needs to be met. I do have a clarifying question. This is only to modify the architectural, previously approved architectural control permit. This is nothing to do with the hazardous materials diesel generator. Is that right? That one from whenever it was approved by the Planning Commission still stands.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sorry, bye.
Thank you. Commissioner Riggs.
Yeah, thank you. I have to agree with multiple statements made tonight that this is disappointing. It can't help but feel like, I'm glad somebody else used the phrase bait and switch. I understand from questions that I have asked behind the scenes that this is not something that can simply be laid on Bohannon, who I understand it provided a fund for aesthetics, assisted with the design of the aesthetics, supported in multiple ways with consultants and legal input. And as I understand it, continues to maintain a fund for the aesthetics, but the aesthetics are being removed from the project. I think there are a lot of questions that should be answered to the residents of Menlo Park. And I have to say, someone has to point out it's kind of bold for engineering to come to us and tell us this wonderful project that we had sold you a couple of years ago, well, we're not going to do that. Oh, by the way, we need your approval not to do it. And oh, by the way, could you give it to us by 10 o'clock tonight because we got a schedule to keep. I don't think that's the way you treat a commission. I don't think that's the way you work within a city. But I would like to be one of the people that does work within the city and understanding the need, albeit the way in which it's presented. I will support this request.
Thank you, Commissioner Riggs. I believe all commissioners have had a chance to speak, and we have a first from Commissioner Barnes and a second from Commissioner Eric. Anyone like to add anything else to the discussion? No? All right, then we'll go ahead and vote, and the action is to approve revisions to the previously approved architectural control permit. Commissioner Barnes?
Yes.
Commissioner Eric?
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs?
Yes.
Commissioner Schindler?
Yes.
I am also a yes. That is 6 yeses, and the motion passes. That brings us to our second item under regular business items, and that's G2, selection of Planning Commission Chair and Vice Chair for the term of December 2023 through April 2024. Look to you, Mr. Parada, for any.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Vice Chair Doe. So as the staff report mentioned, I'll just do a really brief presentation here or update. As the staff report mentions, the Commissioner Harris, who is our current chair, resigned in November. So the commission currently doesn't have a chair. And so staff is requesting that the commission appoint a chair and potentially a vice chair to finish the current term through April 2024. As mentioned in the staff report, there's a table that identifies kind of the typical appointment schedule that the commission has generally, but not always, utilized in terms of making decisions regarding chair and vice chairs. And then secondly, I just want to note that this is an appointment through the next few months. And so, acting or participating as chair or vice chair during this time period doesn't necessarily preclude a reappointment or possible reappointment and extension in April for the kind of May of 2024 through April of 2025 term. And so that concludes my updates. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioner Farrick.
Will the election or the appointment for the vacant seat take place in May or April or May, or sooner than that?
Yeah, so no, good question. So a couple things. So yes, the currently vacant seat is for a term that actually extends through, I have it here, hang on. I believe it's April of 2025, yes. So an appointment to Commissioner Harris's seat would would go through that full term of April of 2025. So it wouldn't just be through April of 2024, it would be to finish her current term.
Right. So I guess the question is, will the council be appointing someone to fill that vacant chair now? Or will they wait for the whole commission's call to action?
I misunderstood the question, sorry.
I asked it really awkwardly. It's not your fault.
I think I got it now. No, they will be making an appointment soon. So we've spoken with the city clerk's office. They intend to release the recruitment sometime in December with a likely appointment in potentially January. It may be February, depending on how city council's schedules work out, but there is other vacancies for other commissions, so it would be a combined recruitment for potential. I think there's 2 current vacancies. There could be more. I'm not aware of, but that would likely go out in the next few weeks for a application period, and then likely appointments in January, maybe February.
Great, thank you. Do we take public comment for?
It's
I'm
advised.
I'm assuming it's part of the procedure. Okay.
Yeah.
So if there's no further clarifying questions, Ms. Began, if we could take public comment for this item.
Thank you, Chair Doe. As a reminder, you're welcome to speak on this public comment period by raising your hand with the hand icon in Zoom or by pressing *9 if calling by phone. So as of right now, there are no in-person commenters, and I do not see any hands raised online.
Okay, we'll give it just a quick moment. How about now?
Okay, I can confirm that there are no public commenters.
Okay, great, thank you. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to the commission, and it's 2 separate motions and actions, right? And for chair and then vice chair. Is that okay? So I'll open it up to the commission for if anyone, Commissioner Schindler.
Thank you, Vice Chair Doe. I actually just wanted to start off by first taking a minute, even though she's not here, to thank Commissioner Harris for her service and her leadership, first as Vice Chair and then as Chair of our commission. I think we will all, and I know I sure will, miss her questions and insight during our discussions and her administrative strengths in keeping us moving forward through all of our agendas. I wish her all the best, and I know that all the commissioners here do as well. I do think that as Vice Chair and now Acting Chair, Commissioner Doe has been doing a great job leading us through these planned agendas and keeping her fellow commissioners on track and under control for the last several months. I would love to make a motion that Vice Chair Doe becomes Chair Doe of the commission.
Thank you, Commissioner Schindler. And that's a very kind way of describing my bumbling ways. And I just also wanted to add to all what you said, Cynthia, we're just sending you lots of good energy and vibes, and hope to see you back on the commission when the time is right. Commissioner Farrick.
I would like to second that motion and also second the sentiments about Chair Harris. I didn't get to serve with her very long, but I really appreciated the time we had and hope to see her again soon.
Thank you, Commissioner Farrick. So a first from Commissioner Schindler and a second from Commissioner Farrick. And if there's no further, Commissioner Barnes, are you comment, question, or a comment or a question?
Both.
Please, please.
Okay, so let me just get the order of operations. There's a first and a second to have you be the new chair, is that correct?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, so prior to that, a couple comments. Yes, my heart goes out to Cynthia, and my best wishes for her, for her. Full stop. Secondly, I wanted to really acknowledge Commissioner Doe, your ability to hold your role as the chair in a way that's quite light-handed. In other words, I think one of the redeeming qualities of a chair, and certainly what I tried to do when I was chair, was really tease out any preference I might have about a particular issue and my viewpoint around it. And I can hold that as a particular commissioner, but yet as a traffic cop, which is really what, the chair is. It is acknowledging and having the exchange of ideas be separate from what you may think as a particular commissioner on a particular subject. So I have just been really impressed and thankful of your ability to hold both your role and individuate your opinion as a commissioner, but yet be a chair and hold that traffic cop type of functionality. And that was clearly your executive functioning is well developed. So for that reason, among other reasons, I'm heartily ready to, I think, the vote coming this way, say, yes, good on you, and I really appreciated the way you've held this commission up till now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Barnes. Commissioner Eric.
I just want to give my heartfelt echoes to everything that's been expressed and vote yes.
Commissioner Farrick.
Resounding yes.
Commissioner Riggs.
Ditto, ditto, and yes.
Commissioner Schindler.
Hell yes.
I guess I'll also vote yes. And I would say to all those kind things that you said, it's really credit to amazing staff and fellow commissioners and preceding commissioners and community. So it's definitely very kind words, though. So the motion passes, and I believe then we can move to the selection of a vice chair. Commissioner Farrick.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Schindler to be vice chair of the Planning Commission for the rest of this term.
Thank you. And Commissioner Riggs.
I would like to second the nomination of Commissioner Schindler.
Excellent. So first from Commissioner Farrick and a second from Commissioner Riggs. Let's go ahead and vote. Commissioner Barnes.
No, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I want to check the seniority chart, and if someone has it in front of them. You're next, Commissioner Schindler. Okay, and I think that custom is an important part of this commission. So not only are you eminently qualified, but we're also following custom, which I think is an important protocol as well. So I'm a yes. Thank you.
Thank you for checking in on that. Commissioner Eric.
Yes.
Commissioner Farrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Riggs.
Yes.
Commissioner Schindler.
Yes.
And I am also an enthusiastic yes, so that motion also passes. So with that, we will move to H, informational items. Mr. Parada.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair Doe. I'll give a few quick updates here. So the commission only has one more meeting this year, December 18th. We are tracking a number of items for that meeting that have been noticed. So let's see, we have a notice of preparation that we released for 3705 Haven on Friday, December 1st, starting the 30-day comment period for the scope and content of the EIR. We've extended that to account for the City Hall closure between Christmas Day and New Year's Day. So it'll end on, I believe it's January 10th. I'll follow up with the commission if that's incorrect. But the commission will be holding the public hearing on the scope and content of the EIR through what is called a EIR scoping session or public hearing on that, and as well as a study session on the December 18th meeting. So that's one update. We also have some other projects with revisions to architectural control and use permit for the Menlo Uptown housing development project. And then we also have a architectural control for a modification to the netting at the Sharon Heights Golf and Country Club driving range to protect the neighboring residential units. And then lastly, we will be asking the commission to review and provide input on its 2024 calendar. And that concludes my reports and announcements for the December 18th meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Parada? Nope. Commissioner Schindler.
Thank you. I'm assuming that the 2024 calendar would be included in part of the staff report, so we would have a chance to just look at calendars, cross-reference and stuff and bring feedback that way. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, that'll be released alongside the agenda with the staff report. And the city staff is taking into account the city council's calendar as well, so that we can sync up the calendar of the council with the planning commission.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? No, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.